Recently, a beautiful boss started working at my office. She seemed pretty standoffish, and everyone around her was walking on eggshells.
If she'd just be a bit more friendly, we could all get along better,
said one male employee. To him, another said,
It's probably because of uncouth guys like you that she acts that way. With her looks, she's probably not short on male attention.
Even so, she was always the center of men's conversations. Some were seriously trying to woo her, while others hoped she'd just hang out with them. But no one could catch her eyes. I figured I'd never interact with her outside of work either, though. The first time I actually connected with the standoffish beauty was during the season when the sun's rays made us roll up our sleeves. I always wear long sleeves for a particular reason. That day, I was eating breakfast in the office's backyard, early in the morning.
Watch out.
I heard someone shout. When I looked up, something like water was pouring down from a bucket. Furthermore, right in front of me, meaning under the bucket, there was the beautiful boss. In that moment, which seemed to slow down, I ran to shield her. Soaking wet, I rolled up my drenched sleeve.
Oh my, your arm is.
Jeez. I'd accidentally revealed the burn scars I'd always hidden. Oh, excuse me.
Why do you apologize? Let me see your arm.
As she reached out with concern, I instinctively brushed her hand away. But little did I know, that would deeply connect to her life. My name is Kent Taylor, and I'm turning 38 this year. As a kid, I was just your average boy who loved superhero cartoons. The hardest time of my life was when our house caught fire when I was in middle school.
Kent! Wake up!
I was jolted awake by my father's yelling in the middle of the night, immediately sensing something was wrong. My eyes wouldn't open properly. The air was filled with a choking smell.
It's a fire! Looks like it started on the upper floor. Hurry!
I sprang into action at the word fire, even though I was usually slow to wake. My father sternly told my mother not to bother grabbing anything.
We don't have time for that. Just leave everything. Let's go!
He explained that the fire was too fierce. We had to leave everything behind. Our lives were what mattered most. Stepping outside, I felt an intense heat I'd never experienced before. Desperately covering my nose with my bent arm to avoid inhaling smoke. We lived on the third floor of a 4-story apartment building. It was not a huge but a cozy 2 bedrooms. Nevertheless, amidst the chaos, I followed my father, trying to escape. The staircase to the first floor, which should have taken only seconds to reach, felt like an eternity. Behind me, I could hear my mother sobbing. It made sense. We had to prioritize our lives over everything else. Eventually, we managed to evacuate, joining other residents who had also been affected by the fire. Among them were some of my classmates, and we checked on each other's well-being.
Are you okay? To think this would happen.
There's been a lot of dry weather warnings lately.
My father was chatting with some folks we knew from around the building, while I was staring at the burning apartment.
Someone help! My grandma, she can't walk well.
From amidst the engulfing black smoke, I heard a girl's cry for help. However, it seemed like none of the adults around could hear her, or they just weren't showing any sign of concern.
Dad! There's a girl.
I turned around shouting, but my father and the other adults had apparently gone to call the fire department, and were not around anymore.
Hey now, what should I do?
My mind raced, filled with scenes from the superhero cartoons I've been binge-watching lately. My love for those shows hadn't faded, even though I was in middle school. The hero always swoops in to save the damsel in distress with flair. I've always wanted to be that guy who helps those in need.
I can do it. I can save her.
Muttering to myself, I ran towards the apartment as the fire grew fiercer. I heard my mother scream, but I was already too focused on saving the girl. Trying not to inhale the smoke, I crouched low and carefully made my way to where the girl was. She seemed a bit younger than me, sobbing uncontrollably.
Is your grandma inside?
I asked, and through her tears, she nodded.
I'll go. You get to safety first.
But...
It felt like a scene straight out of a hero's tale, something I'd dreamt about. Maybe it was my recklessness that let such a carefree thought cross my mind. Regardless, I charged into the room.
Kent!
Then, my father also burst into there.
I heard you ran towards the apartment and came looking in a panic. Don't do something so foolish.
Dad. There's her grandma in here.
After explaining the situation to him, we found the girl's grandmother trembling in a back room. We supported her together, and hurried outside.
I'm sorry, so sorry.
Today's act of bravery by a middle schooler would surely make the front page of the newspapers.
That's what I thought as we headed for the ground floor. By the time we were going down the stairs, I felt like a world-class hero, bursting with pride. Then, the girl who had evacuated earlier saw us and ran towards us in relieved.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Suddenly, her face filled with terror, her eyes wide open.
What?
A sharp pain shot through my left arm.
It hurts. No, it's burning.
The shock was so intense, I lost consciousness right then and there. When I woke up, I found myself in a hospital room, staring at a white ceiling. Apparently, the collapsing building had hit me from my left shoulder down to my arm, and I had been asleep for 3 days. My mother was crying, clinging to me as she told me so. It took a while, but I realized I couldn't move my left arm well. The burns had caused my skin to contract, leaving me with lasting damage. Even worse, there was no newspaper article about a heroic middle schooler, no interviewers crowding around the brave boy's bedside. I wondered if the girl and her grandma were okay. Since that fire, everyone from the apartment had moved on to new places, and I lost contact with the two of them. All my parents would say was, "They thanked you," with no further details coming my way. My left arm was left with lasting damage, but it didn't hinder me too much during my school days. However, not being able to move my arm well made job hunting extremely difficult. I decided to get a job right after high school, hoping to help my parents who lost everything in the fire. Yet, when I explained the after effects on my arm, every company hesitated to hire me. I never thought that not being able to move one arm smoothly would have such a big impact on my life. I cursed myself for trying to help someone on a whim at that time. The only job I finally landed was as a janitor at a metal factory, thanks to my father's acquaintance. It was a full-time position, and I wasn't in a place to complain, needing to make a living. The factory was pretty large, employing 5 other janitors besides me. Truthfully, we as janitors were treated as the lowest of the low within the factory. Even though we were all full-time employees, we got some pretty harsh treatment from the other staff. There were instances of unfair treatment and even harassment. It was tough work, but the warmth of my coworkers kept me going. Thus, 20 years have passed, and I'm still working here as a janitor. My left arm is still hard to move. Sometimes I wonder what if I hadn't tried to help back then, honestly. Knowing full well that I'm just an ordinary person, had I left the rescue to someone else, I wouldn't have suffered from this burn. There were times I regretted my decision, rubbing my occasionally aching left arm. But deep down, I truly felt glad that I helped that day. There's no falsehood in that, and no matter how long I live, I doubt I'll have another experience I can be as proud of as that day. So, I'm definitely not despairing over my life. One day, as I came to work, the talk of the town was the new boss who was being transferred here in the following month.
It's rare for a woman to join us.
Apparently, the new boss was a go-getter from the main office's sales department, and to top it off, she was quite the beauty.
She's getting the position of sales leader right away. Lucky or born with a silver spoon.
As a woman, right, no matter how she got it, the other sales guys must feel pretty crushed, being overtaken by a woman.
My company had a strong adherence to old values, and many people didn't take kindly to a woman being the boss. I tried not to listen too much to their conversations, focusing on mopping the floor. I figured we lived in different worlds, as much as I might envy her. Then came the rumored beautiful boss, Sophia Miller. She seemed standoffish from the get-go, answering questions with a word or two and not sharing anything about her personal life. Her aloofness led some male employees to start baseless rumors that she must be the boss's mistress.
They wouldn't hire someone so unfriendly out of the blue, no matter how good her track record was at her previous company. It makes you not want to deal with her at all, right?
Is that so? Maybe she's just seriously living her life. There might be a reason she's so reserved. Being beautiful and reticent has led to her being bad-mouthed so much, to the point where people say she got her position by being someone's mistress. I couldn't help but feel sympathy, though honestly, I wished she'd at least return a greeting. Just the other day, a simple, "Take care," from me got met with a harsh glare. At that point, I even wondered if she had a phobia of men, but if that were the case, she wouldn't have come to our workplace. My curiosity about her only grew, but I tried to avoid causing any waves by keeping my distance. As summer approached, people started wearing short sleeves. I remained in long sleeves to hide my scars. I hadn't worn short sleeves since that fire incident. I didn't want to expose my burned scars and receive unnecessary worry or pity. That particular day, I arrived at work a bit early and was having breakfast in the office's backyard. Tossing some bread crumbs at my feet, pigeons would fly in from nowhere, which added a bit of sunshine to my solitude. Enjoying the small moment of bliss in a comforting space, I suddenly heard a voice shouting,
Watch out!
I turned around on instinct and looked up. I saw what seemed like a bucket and water falling from the top of the building. And right beneath it was Sophia by pure coincidence. I didn't hesitate for a moment. Like that day, I ran mindlessly and reached out my hand. Get out of the way. As I shouted and pushed her body, my arm got wet from the water. Unable to grasp the situation, Sophia got half-soaked and looked at me with furrowed brows.
I'm so sorry. It was an accident during window cleaning.
A man hurried over, apologizing to me. Apparently, he had accidentally knocked over a bucket on the scaffold. Indeed, I could smell detergent from the liquid that got on me. I instinctively rolled up my sleeve, but Sophia suddenly turned pale by seeing it.
Oh my, that on your arm.
She pointed at my burned scars, trembling. Oh, excuse me. I tried to cover it up quickly, but she still tried to get a closer look at the scar.
Why are you apologizing? Hey, that burn on your arm, where did you get it?
Please, just leave it alone. I couldn't bring myself to look directly at her, thinking she must be looking at me with pity and curiosity, as usual. I decided to leave without saying anything more in front of her. Without turning back to her calls, I headed to the locker room. I changed into a spare set of work clothes and slammed the locker shut harder than usual. As I left the locker room, Sophia was waiting for me.
Hi, thank you for earlier, and I wanted to say,
It's work time. I brushed past her bluntly and started towards my station. But she followed me, undeterred.
please, I want to thank you. How about dinner this weekend?
It's really nothing. Don't worry about it.
It's not nothing. Besides, there's something I want to talk to you about. Saturday, at the cafe in front of the shopping center, at 11. I'll wait as long as it takes for you to come.
She unilaterally made the appointment and then got into the arriving elevator.
I'll be waiting.
I watched the elevator doors close without responding. I don't need her thanks, and what's the point of telling her about the reason for my burns? But the desperate look in her eyes when she made the promise was incredibly sincere. Could there be some reason? As I worked, I couldn't stop thinking about the promise with Sophia. Then came Saturday morning. I woke up to find it was already past 10. I had spent the night agonizing over whether to go to the cafe or not, and before I knew it, daylight was breaking. She probably wants to thank me, and then, there's the matter of my burned scars. Sometimes there are people who want to delve deeply into a sad past. If I went, I'd surely regret it. Digging up the past, only to be pitted at their whim. How many times have I been hurt by such selfish behavior? As I was deep in thought, the clock hand had already passed 12.
I'll wait as long as it takes.
Her words flashed through my mind. She couldn't possibly be waiting for me. After all, she has never wavered, even when the handsome sales guys invited her out. A janitor like me shouldn't matter in her life. Yet, as I tossed and turned, a nagging sense of conscience began to pain me. I've always hated the idea of someone getting hurt because of me, more than getting hurt myself. Guess I'll go check it out. With that mutter, I got dressed and headed to the cafe in front of the shopping mall. The cafe we were supposed to meet at was made mostly of glass, allowing a good view of the inside from the outside. Peeking in covertly, I could see Sophia sitting in the back left corner. Despite it being past 1 o'clock, there was an iced coffee on her table, and she seemed restless, waiting. As I mustered the courage to touch the door, it rang out with a clang.
Kent!
Sophia stood up, clearly happy to see me. I'm sorry for being late. I awkwardly apologized, but she shook her head vigorously.
It was sudden of me to call you out. I've wanted to thank you for a long time.
After ordering the same iced coffee as her, I sat down in front of her. Then she looked me in the eyes again and said,
It was you.
As it turns out, Sophia was the girl who lived in the same apartment building as me. She told me how happy she was that I came to help her and her immobile grandmother during crying out for help that day.
When I thought all was lost, you came. Just like a hero.
Smiling shyly as she said that, she truly reminded me of the girl from back then.
I've wanted to thank you properly for so long. But when the debris fell on you, my grandmother was also severely injured in the same way. And then, she passed away.
I was shocked to hear that. Her grandmother I thought I had saved had died that day. No way.
Don't be so down. She was already frail, and it was a miracle we got out of the apartment at all. Besides, if you hadn't come, I wouldn't have been able to move from the apartment. So, you saved my life.
That's probably why my parents never wanted to talk about the girl and her grandmother. Telling me, who was only a middle schooler at the time, that her grandmother I tried to save with my father had died might have made me blame myself.
Seeing your burned scars, I couldn't believe it was you. So, I asked the president on a whim, and it turned out you were the boy from that time.
Sophia continued, smiling shyly while fiddling with her iced coffee straw.
After seeing you collapse that day, I decided I had to be happier and stronger than anyone else. Because I might have died with my grandmother otherwise.
Her smile, never seen at the office, made my heart skip a beat.
If the person who saved me was wandering lost because of those burns, then it's my turn to save them. That's why I needed to become strong, so next time I can be the hero.
She said earnestly, making me burst into laughter. But acting so standoffish at work won't do you any favors, will it? A little charm goes a long way. That's when I fully realized the rumors at work were completely off base.
If I'm too nice, everyone takes advantage of it. I've been dreaming of reuniting with you. Oh, never mind that.
She suddenly blushed and looked down. That let my face turn blush too. After a moment of silence, she finally said,
Kent, Thank you for saving me twice. You truly are my greatest hero.
Her words warmed my heart, and tears rolled down my cheeks. All that time, I hid my burned scars, questioning whether what I did was right. But I felt redeemed. Thank you for finding me. I knew then, I wouldn't regret my past anymore. If someone in front of me needed help, I'd want to lend a hand. Because I was thanked with such a wonderful smile, saying, thank you. Time passed, and I started dating Sophia. It's still a secret from our colleagues and boss. Just thinking about being torn to pieces if they found out sends shivers down my spine. This weekend, we plan to visit her grandmother's grave. To apologize for not being able to save her that day, and to promise I'll be with Sophia to protect her now. As a hero, my goal now is to protect the important person right in front of me.